One of this year's biggest rumour stories in Formula 1 is about to end, as Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, is about to sign a new deal at Mercedes to stay into his 40s and try and win his 8th world championship title. Toto Wolff said the following on Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes contract. "It is going to happen soon, and we're talking more days than weeks. We are trying hard to get it done before the Canadian Grand Prix. I will see him today and maybe we'll talk about it. We have such a good relationship." According to Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff, Lewis Hamilton's Formula 1 future might be decided before this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. Are you happy to hear that? Or would you have liked to see Hamilton join Ferrari? Or perhaps retire? Hamilton's contract with Mercedes expires in 6 months, but Wolff says his star driver is on the verge of a new agreement. "It is going to happen soon, and we're talking more in days than weeks," Wolff told CNBC's Squawk on the Street program in New York when asked about Hamilton's contract negotiations. "We are trying hard to get it done before the Canadian Grand Prix. I'll see him today and maybe we'll talk about it. We have such a good relationship that we dread the moment that we need to talk about money." Hamilton, 38, met with Wolff the day after the last race in Spain, with the hopes of signing a new deal with the Silver Arrows. The British driver's contract extension is expected to be multi-year, prolonging his participation in F1 until his 40th birthday. "Lewis is the most important personality in the sport," added Wolff. "He's so multifaceted, not only with the racing but also off-track, so we need to keep him in the sport for as long as possible." From a team's perspective, Lewis and Mercedes have gone back a long time. He's never raced for any other brand than Mercedes. We both joined the team in 2013, and from a professional relationship, we now have a friendship. It has been a wonderful time. Lewis Hamilton has stated that he met with Toto Wolff last Monday to negotiate a new deal with Mercedes. Hamilton, who hasn't won a race since losing the championship to Max Verstappen in the season finale in Abu Dhabi in 2021, is already 83 points behind the leader this year. However, Mercedes' recent success has given Hamilton, who finished second to Red Bull's Verstappen at Barcelona's Circuit de Catalunya, a newfound confidence that his ambition of a record 8th world title is not gone. But Wolff warned, the result in Spain was a well-deserved reward for everyone's efforts at Brackley and Brixworth to bring our update package to the track. "We were pleased with how it performed, and it will provide a new baseline for us to build from. But we must also manage our expectations. It was a circuit that suited our car, and we should expect our direct competitors to be stronger in the next races. The gap to Red Bull is large, and it will take lots of hard work to close that down. Nevertheless, we're up for the challenge." Even though the car isn't a winner yet, Toto Wolff believes Lewis Hamilton will agree to a Mercedes Formula 1 contract extension in days, not weeks. The future of 7-time Formula 1 world champion Lewis Hamilton has been a source of discussion in 2023, as the Briton passes through the final year of his current deal with Mercedes. But it seems there is now finally an end to all the speculation. And this is because Lewis himself was eager to sign a new deal, as he is just as hungry as ever to race. Lewis Hamilton believes he's still incredibly keen to win in Formula 1, and admits he's enjoying being the hunter in the short term. "Through the ups and downs, I think it's been a pretty incredible journey. Back in 2006, I never thought I would be a multiple world champion. I wasn't even sure if I would get to Formula 1, reflected Hamilton. "Every second and every decision I made on track, in my mind, was the deciding factor of if I would get the opportunity and whether the door would be open for me to get the hand up into the big league. That's all I was focused on every single day when I was running, every mile I was putting in, thinking about crossing the line and how I could convince then McLaren CEO Ron Dennis to give me a chance. I thought if I win the championship, they would have no choice but to give me an opportunity. It's pretty crazy. Getting here to F1, it's a similar sort of thing. I have to really show what I can do and prove myself every weekend. I've been doing it for a long time, and I still feel very much related to that kid. I don't know how, but I still feel so incredibly hungry to win, and willing to sacrifice pretty much everything in order to get to where I need to be, and that's not changed." Hamilton has had few opportunities to win since controversially missing out on a record-breaking 8th world title at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Since Ferrari and Charles Leclerc's 2022 championship campaign fizzled, Max Verstappen has mostly controlled the sport, while Mercedes has struggled with its car design. Verstappen is in a similar position to Hamilton's when Mercedes was the team to beat, and the British driver highlighted what it's like to be in the benchmark vehicle. Once you get on top of the car and the car works in this window and it's consistent, it's much easier to get into that setup, commented Hamilton. When you're with a car like I have, for example, you're trying everything, every different setup and combination to try and eke out a little bit more performance. But when you have performance in hand, you're not necessarily always having to make risky choices throughout practice in order to get that extra half a tenth. You don't have to push the bodywork as tight as possible, put the engine on the rim of the temperature, because you have a little bit of breathing space. Then you don't have to push the tyres as hard, so you can lift and coast a little bit more, which ultimately means longer stints. All these different things compound, and the more you practice it, the easier it gets. But you still have a job to deliver. You still have to be focused and still can't make mistakes. Still have to make the right decisions, and that comes with a lot of pressure. He continued, "For me, it was easy just to stay focused on the job in hand and focus on the things I can control and making sure the team is consistently pushing forward. I never got tired of it or comfortable. It's a great feeling when you know you've got a car you can compete with. From our perspective, we know we're not fighting for a win, so it's arriving hopeful that you can find a little bit of magic in the weekend. Every small decision, every position that you get in qualifying makes that difference, and I would say I've been enjoying this more for the short term." Mercedes made a number of changes during the Monaco Grand Prix last month, which looked to pay off a week later in Spain. One of the most significant risks was a shift from their so-called no sidepod concept to bigger sidepods more in line with Red Bull. We've had a lot of input as a team over the past year. Those constant conversations of why does that look like that? And we look like this, have we tried that? We now have the wider sidepods more in the direction of Red Bull, and it's not been my decision to go that way, said Hamilton. It's been clear since we dropped the car back on the ground in the first test. It's been the identical twin to last year's car, except for the bouncing. We've taken note of where we are and where we've gone wrong, so are slowly chipping away back to the front. It's just a long process. But slowly chipping away will not fix the primary Hamilton issue. Earlier in the season, the 7-time winner was very vocal about a feature of the Mercedes W14. Lewis Hamilton claims that nothing can fix the cockpit issues on Mercedes W14 Formula 1 car, but that recent changes are a real positive. Both Hamilton and George Russell sit far further up the front of the W14 than any previous car, with Hamilton expressing his discontent around the time of the Australian Grand Prix, claiming he lacked trust in the car's rear. And after their big update a couple of weeks ago, Lewis Hamilton talked about their further plans in Spain. "There's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it is," Hamilton told media when asked if the new suspension parts had eased his troubles with the seat position. "Everything you can do is just try to slow the rate of rotation, stabilize the rear end. It's trying to do it on a mechanical balance, but you're just limited with the tools that you have. It's the same ones as last year. But the new suspension was a real positive for me. It gave me a lot of confidence, especially in Monaco." Slowly chipping away, Mercedes will spend the remainder of 2023 studying and comprehending their more traditional design, which was never designed to bring them on the same footing with Red Bull and the dominating RB19 machine. Both Hamilton and Russell have been instrumental in getting the W14 back on track, although Hamilton concedes that it's just a long process. "George and I, over the past year, have been having those constant conversations with the team where you're like, why does that look like that? And we look like this. Have we tried that? Now we have the wider sidepods, more in the direction of what Red Bull is. It's not been my decision to go that way. I think it's been clear that when we drop the car back on the ground at the first test, it's basically the sister, the identical twin of last year's car, except for some of the bouncing. It still had some of the very similar characteristics of how it drives, the bouncing, but we've taken note of where we've gone wrong. Right now we're just chipping away and trying to make our way back to the front. It's just a long process, unfortunately." So, are you happy to hear that Lewis will stay? And what about the W14? Will it ever win a race this season? Or should they just focus on securing P2 this year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.